Good morning. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Laurene. I am so happy for myself because last week when I did the editing, it took the editing part pretty much the same, but when I have to upload it to the next step and then transfer it over to YouTube, both those tasks took like under 15 minutes. I think the one transferring it from the edit app or whatever program to YouTube was less than 5 minutes. I couldn't believe it because there have been some days where I start at 10 in the morning doing this, and sometimes between one flip-flop problem after another, it can take me till Wednesday morning. So like knock on wood that this little treat continues. I still haven't quite figured out where to look because right now I'm looking at the counter in the hopes that I've got eye contact with you, but I so want to look at myself. and so by, admiring myself, I may not be having eye contact with you. So I'll just kind of flip-flop. And then I also want to raise my chin, which would be great for hiding this, but no, I think the head position is here. Two books today. One of is a love, and the other is What the Heck Was Going On? So I'm going to start with the What the Heck Was Going On book. Both of these books are for book clubs, and so this one was for my group that used to read young adult and now is just very confused as to what we're reading. And No, I'm telling a complete lie there. This is for reading across Canada with Bookworm Adventure Girls. And we try to read Canadian. Because as I was looking at it, I was thinking, those people wouldn't want this book. Anyhow, I don't know what possessed us, but this Oil People by David Huebert, it's fiction, although the title kind of you make it think nonfiction. Frankly, I have no idea. I mean, there was so much. It could have been nonfiction because there was quite a lot of discussion about oil and the nature of oil rigs and the composition of oil, when it's below ground, when it's above ground, when it's in your hair, when it's in your teeth, when it's in your lungs. Oil was the motif, doo-doo-doo-doo. And we've got a family who, it's taking place in Ontario, southern Ontario, around Petrolia, Sarnia, that kind of neck of the woods. And I guess in the mid-1800s, Steve just came in the door, so I don't know what I was talking about, except that it was Oil People. Okay, so 1850s-ish. And in that area, oil was discovered. And we've got the... oh my gosh, I'm just reading the Armbruster. Yes, Clyde Armbruster comes in, and his family and their descendants are living on this fairly generous piece of land. There are oil rigs on it, but the people surrounding them have either sold their oil discoveries to a larger company, or they are the larger company as the generations go down. And so, excuse me, there's all kinds of possible intrigue that's happening between the different families, but I just couldn't find it. I found this book to be just a complete hazy experience. We'd be reading about someone walking out in the fields with a lantern, and that particular story had a large impact on a wife and a child, and then the next generations. But I'm not sure that I ever got a clear picture as to what happened. I think I used my imagination. But things repeated and came around and were... we didn't even really get different points of view. It was sort of always the narrator's point of view. And that's a lie. There is 13-year-old Jade Armbruster is the narrator, and her dad is trying to sell the farm. Mom's trying to, it's not really a farm, it's just sell the land. And Mom is against it. She wants to hang on some sort of legacy. There's questions of infertility and just there's all kinds of health problems. Dad is like the marriage is falling apart. It would fall apart whether there was land sold or not sold. I don't feel like at any point I was getting a clear plot line. And I was getting quite frustrated, probably around page 100, because it was a book club book. I was trying, hard to be dedicated. And at that point I thought, I'm going to skip to the back. I'm going to see whether there's, anything that happens that is going to prompt me to go, yeah, okay, I'll read the middle. I felt like the ending was the same as, page 30. And I don't even really know how to describe it, what the author was doing. I think the only idea I have, and I think it could be wrong, is that there was so much description of the land or the door or the oil and the oil and the oil, and that whatever verbs were in there that had to do with the characters just got lost. So I felt like I was in a gas tank, It's like, so I don't know how we're going to talk about it when it comes to book club time. We've got some people that are very strongly opinionated, and I don't know whether they would have finished the book. It might be a very short discussion. I don't recommend it. And I haven't read anything else by David Huebert. He's written also Peninsula Sinking and Chemical Valley. And he also does poetry. We Are No Longer the Smart Kids in Class. And Humanism. So I think sometimes, like Helen Humphreys, she is a poet, and she writes these lyrical, beautiful things that are happening. I think just because it was oil didn't mean it was an ugly subject matter. I think that there was quite a lot of poetics around the oil, but I felt that the lyrical language got in the way of any kind of character development. I don't think these characters developed one little bit. And yeah, and I should also mention that this story goes back in time and forward in time, and there isn't really a difference in the writing style, so that you know where you are. Just on one, you'll be in one generation, and then you're in the earlier generation, and then back. And so I didn't find those shifts to be very clear. It was just an unclear book, and that's too bad. Because, it's like, especially if it's a book club book, I really like to give it a true shot. And, well, I guess I did. It was just the book wasn't so good. The other book that I read, so that was Canadian. The other book that I read was also for a book club, and this is my oldie group, who don't know they're called oldies. A Bird in the House by Margaret, Laurence, also Canadian. And everybody, when we decided that we were going to read this, everybody was like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. They either hadn't read it, or they had read it a long time ago and wanted a reread. So everybody was pretty chuffed to have this as our option. And I went to the university library, because Steve has a library card for that, and I got an actual book, where it's about the contents. It's not about the cover. Like, I don't know, just distracts me from the subject matter. I'm more like, yeah, okay, I'm going to read this. Whoa, I'm strong. And it's got beautiful layout, the graphics, it's really a wonderful book to actually have in your hands. There's a good weight to it. So after we went to all this trouble to get this book, which wasn't a lot of trouble, we were cleaning out a pile of books, and I thought, well, I have it. But it was it's in a tiny, tiny little, like, pocketbook kind of thing, just, tiny and thin, and the printing is really super small. And I thought, I'm just going to keep reading this lovely book. And one of the people that read it before me has done a lot of underlining. I don't know whether you can sort of see it. Sometimes she's the person underlined in order to, that's an important moment. And sometimes they've defined a word, or sometimes they've given an interpretation as to what what that particular paragraph has to do with whatever the essay is that they're going to be writing, because pretty sure this got turned into an essay. And I think it might have been more than one person, because there's pen, there's pencil, and there's pink pencil crayon. So I had a great time reading this book, because it was like I was reading two different people's thoughts, really. What was it? Why Margaret Laurence writes short stories to find common and universal elements. So, yeah, it was an essay. This is a series of connected stories. They're almost too long to be a short story and too short to be a novella, but they're very intact. And it takes place in Manawoc, which is an imaginary place, and it is dealing with the oh my goodness, I'm reading another book where I know the last name of the family is Gardner. What are the last names? Oh, it's two Scottish last names. And there's two families that have come together through the marriage. The protagonist is the child. And so the other thing this doesn't have, that you can't come back to and rely on, is it doesn't have an explanation in here. So this is one of those moments where Vanessa is the main character, but I should have written that on a sticky note. So Vanessa's mom's a homemaker, and sometimes she acts as a nurse for the husband, who's a doctor, and they live in their own home, and with the husband's mother. That's one grandmother. There's another house called the Brick House, and that's where we have the mother's parents and sister. And it's taking place during the 1930s. There's a depression going on, and the sister, Aunt Edna, can't find work in Winnipeg and has had to come home very reluctantly and is looking after her parents, who I don't think they needed that much looking after. I think they just kind of thought, well, she can do it. There's a certain amount of privilege in that relationship, and Edna is definitely the loser. Dad, like grandfather, what a piece of work. Oh my God. He was just pompous and proud, and with no vulnerabilities whatsoever, and was one of these people who would just come in and make statements, absolutely blindingly inappropriate statements, in the, like, not sexual or anything, but it's like, let's just pretend it was a difference between shovels, and the shovels were metal, but the handles were maple or birch. And then he would just make this incredible statement about Sweden and their birch trees or something, and you just go, what? It's like, as I think I've said this in the past, I don't know where he got his shit. And he was such a strong personality that everyone was under their thumb, and Edna would fight against it, and his wife would be just very sort of kind and patient, and she was internally very religious, and she didn't expect it of other people, but that was how she got through things. And then Vanessa's mom, she's pretty unhappy. She's just rather tortured in that relationship. Vanessa, in the beginning, as a young girl, her grandfather's a pretty pleasant grandfather, but he's still like unreasonably demanding. So as Vanessa gets a little bit older, she's starting to see the damage that grandfather is doing on the rest of the family. This is a theme that's sort of through all of the little stories, and the geography is through all the little stories. There's one story that everybody in the book club really didn't like, about a husky that had been a litter of husky mix dogs that someone delivering wood said, well, we've got all these puppies, would you like a puppy? And so, can we have a puppy? Yes. And there's a local bully who's delivering the newspapers, and he teases the dog to the point where the dog is like sort of mad. And so the dog has to be given away. It was just a hard chapter to read in terms of what was happening to the poor dog, how nobody seemed to be able to figure out what to do to protect the dog, how the bully just kept getting away with things. It was a hard chapter. There was another chapter that was also hard, but in a more humane way. There was a cousin Chris who came to live with the family in the brick house, and he's going to high school, and he's got to put up with grandfather, but that's okay. He's got a way of kind of disengaging, and he wants to go to university to be a poet. And of course, depression, no money, there's no way grandfather's going to pay for that. He's already had this boy under his roof going to high school, and he thinks that's just enough. Although it didn't cost him anything, but it's just enough. So Chris has to make his own way, and they send him back to the farm, but he runs away and goes to Winnipeg. And as this story is told not in just a one-time moment, it's sort of Chris's story over several decades, and he is a person of deep sensitivity and trauma, and as the years go by, he just becomes less and less capable of dealing with his world. And Vanessa, at a certain point, goes up to the farm where she wants to spend time with Chris, because she remembers when he came as a teenager and she was a young kid, and they had a really fun time. So there was something happened, and could she go to the farm? And she thought it would be great. Well, this farm is so derelict, and it's no wonder that Chris is having a hard time, because everybody is just either mean to each other or completely cut off from each other. So he's just so isolated in his life. So that was a very poignant chapter. Some of the others, I would not say any of them were particularly funny, but they were engaging. And I was reading this at bedtime, and I thought to myself, I'll do that trick of just reading 10 pages a night, and I'll get through this nicely and gracefully. I was just smitten with this book. I kept reading entire chapters, and then I would really break the rules and read more. And so I was going to bed about an hour later than I really wanted to be. As far as the book club discussion goes, it was not scintillating. Everybody enjoyed it. I think the one person who didn't read it wasn't there, so that was okay. But everybody had a favorite chapter, and everybody had an unfavorite chapter, and that was the Husky chapter was definitely like the low point in the book. But there wasn't any real discussion. It was just, yeah, that was really nice. Margaret Laurence is such a good author. Oh, I like everything that Margaret Laurence writes. But we talked a little bit about the grandfather, the way I just have. And we kind of came to the conclusion that this had to be written as short stories as opposed to a novel, because one of the questions that was asked was, do you think this would have been better as a novel? And we thought no, because what happens is we've got Vanessa's point of view around a particular event, and then the next story is a completely different point of event, but it's coinciding with the two. And so, like, for instance, the Husky story would take place at the same time that there was a story about a wedding, let's just pretend. And so she explores the whole Husky story, then she explores the whole wedding story. If she had done them sort of integrated, I don't think that we would have got the intensity of the writing around the one and the intensity around the next. I think that it would have all become much more feathered, and I'm not sure that it would have had as much power. It's a quiet book. I think it's really pleasing. I think that it actually would be a candidate for books that do not crush your soul. I'll have to remember that and do it next year. But yeah, I think that there's, except for that one poor dog, everything was really interesting. And also, Depression era Canada is not a it was definitely mentioned in the book, whereas I've read other books in Canada in the 30s that doesn't really talk about the Depression as an event. It's more about just either poor people in the city or poor people on the land. But this is a family that's owned a hardware store, and dad's a doctor on the other side. So they are more middle class, but they're still feeling quite a lot of struggle. And so I thought it was a different point of view than I've read elsewhere. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, I just haven't found it. So would I recommend this? Absolutely. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. And what is the next thing that we've got book club wise? I don't know. I think I'm caught up with one. I am not reading that memoir for this one group. I'm not going to read it. Everybody else is looking at me. You should read it. It's good. It's this big. It's as big as 2 Britannica encyclopedias together. I'm not going to read it. And I don't even know who the lady is. So my wrists will be slapped next month. So yeah, I'm not sure what's up for book clubs in the next month for November. I'll just have to look on my different pieces of scrap paper and figure it out. I don't know if you noticed, but we're missing a box there. Steve's been culling through about 6 boxes that we've had in the attic and under various chairs and beds of books that we just decided not to put onto the shelves. And there's a bookstore out in Exit 5 towards Tantallon, and it takes donations. They will not buy your books. You have to donate the books, and then they use these funds to help run the bookstore, which is great because they also have kitty cats from the SPCA. And so there was a sweetie. Oh my gosh, she was so cute, pure white with pale blue eyes. It's very, very friendly, Fiona. And so we took some books out there. They were happy to receive them. But then Steve's found someone else who likes the Canadian books that we've had. So anyways, it's 12 o'clock. Do-do-do-do. Do. That happened last week too, didn't it? So anyways, his box is gone. We've culled all the books that we are going to cull for the next little while. I don't know where like all those books have to go into a shelf someday. So I don't know how we're going to deal with that, but that's another subject for another day. I hope all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true, and I will see you next week with something or other. Bye-bye for now.